And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
For Monday morning, a lot of IFR here over the western interior, all the way out into the northern Bering Sea, and then some marginal VFR for the Pribilof Islands. More IFR, pretty extensive here from the eastern Aleutians all the way out to Kiska Island. And a band of IFR, Prince William Sound, right along the coast there on down the Panhandle. And then for the North Slope, out to the Arctic coast, actually into the Brooks Range there. Quite an area of IFR up in that area. So for the afternoon, that kind of shifts eastward there with marginal VFR for the western Arctic coast. IFR still holding on here to the North Gulf Coast, Prince William Sound, up into the Talkeetnas, extending eastward here, at least to Yakutat. IFR now over the eastern Panhandle. And a big area of IFR right along the Kuskokwim Delta coast on down to the western Bristol Bay area, Togiak right on the edge there. And the Alaska Peninsula IFR westward to Atka Island. And then more IFR here for St. Lawrence Island, the Bering Strait. Then for Tuesday, IFR eastern Bering Sea, right on up in toward Norton Sound along the southwest coast. On down to the Alaska Peninsula and eastern Aleutians with marginal VFR covering the remainder of the Aleutian chain and Bering Sea. Less IFR now, but still some there along the North Gulf Coast, eastern Kenai Peninsula, southern Kodiak Island. Pretty good IFR holding on to the North Slope and the Arctic coast with a band of marginal VFR right through the central interior. And then for Tuesday afternoon, marginal VFR, central, southern, southeast coast with some IFR there from about Wrangell on up into maybe the Juneau area covering Lynn Canal there. And also still a band of IFR right along the North Gulf Coast in the eastern Kenai Peninsula. And the eastern Bering Sea, a lot of IFR pushing into the southwest coast here and down to the north shore of the Alaska Peninsula. IFR. Again, the central Brooks Range there on out to the Arctic coast. And Fort Passes, Anaktuvuk and Adigan, looks pretty good for IFR conditions for both passes there. Marginal VFR for Lake Clark, Merrill, and Rainy. In fact, the entire Alaska range appears to will be marginal VFR conditions for Monday. As you can see, Isabel and Mentasta, and it looks to be IFR in the Tanita Pass area, and for Portage, IFR as well. Chilkoot and White, IFR. Freezing levels here, 2,000 feet up to the eastern North Gulf Coast, 6,000 feet now down toward Prince of Wales Island with 8,000 feet over the Queen Charlotte Islands. So a little bit of warming going on there. And then we've got the surface way up in toward the Yukon River here for tomorrow morning, but 2,000 feet south of the Aleutians. And icing, a band here of considerable moderate rime icing pushing up to the Pribilofs eastward here across the Alaska Peninsula. And then could be some considerable moderate rime icing there over the Alaska Range, eastern Copper River Basin area, mostly the mountainous terrain here. And then also just southwest of St. Lawrence Island, some increasing icing threats there. And areas of considerable moderate icing possible for the southeast coast. And the jet stream here showing westerly flow across southern Alaska at about 75 knots, southwest 80 knots, just southwest of Kodiak Island, and westerlies at 70 knots for the eastern Aleutians. And for the 9,000 foot winds, pretty light and variable here from the Arctic coast down into southern Alaska, picking up to about 35 knots there for Kodiak Island, and northerlies at 35 knots for the western and central Aleutians there. And looks like southwest at about 40 knots there for the Alaska Peninsula. Westerlies 45 knots for the southeast coast. 3,000 feet, breeziest area here for the Panhandle will be in the southern areas, much lighter and more variable up to the north. Interior Alaska, light winds, east 40 knots there for the western Arctic coast. And around this low here, central Aleutians, south to southwest 45 knots for the Alaska Peninsula, coming back around up to 50 knots there for Adak and Atka, or just west of those areas. And for turbulence, due to southeast winds here, we've got considerable moderate turbulence for the Alaska Peninsula, and then with north winds out to the west there, looking at considerable moderate turbulence there for the Atka-Adak area, and Amchitka Island, and still a little bit of bumpy conditions up here for the western Arctic coast due to those continued easterly winds, as well as the southern panhandle.